Episode 1 of Pantheon starts with our focus on Maddie, a girl at school who's bullied by her peers. She's an outsider, and part of that stems from her becoming a recluse. 2 years back, her father passed away, and since then, it's caused an enormous amount of stress in her life. It's a tough pill for Maddie to swallow, given the pair had a good relationship. The same can't be said for Maddie and her mother, Ellen. They're estranged and both have very different interests. That night, Maddie's computer blinks on with a strange message from an unknown sender. They send emojis to one another until Maddie asks exactly who this person is. They simply send a ghost emoji back. It's a strange and enticing mystery that's starting to build. At school the next day, things change. There's drama between Samara and the other girls who are bullying her. They begin turning on one another after their phones are hacked, which also means Maddie is in the clear from bullying. It would appear the culprit is this mysterious emoji sender. Naturally, Maddie's mother Ellen shows up and immediately interferes when she sees her daughter contacting someone on her computer. Ellen demands to know who she's talking to. When Emo, Maddie's name for the mysterious sender, drops a text full of emojis from a phone Ellen recognizes, she gets spooked and hurries out the room. Maddie naturally follows and listens as Ellen phones someone demanding to know why David, her husband, has been sending messages to her. But is this really true? Or is there more to this story? Well, the focus shifts across to a kid called Caspian before we get our answers. He's a genius and disinterested in school, answering equations and formula with ease. He also finds himself interested in conspiracy theories too. Funnily enough, he gets talking to Maddie online, who screenshots the emoji chat and sends it over, asking for help. Caspian dives into its origins and appears to hit a breakthrough, but we'll have to wait and see. Another new character we meet this episode is Chandra. He heads out for a business meeting, where he tells the other men in attendance that the singularity is near. What he's referencing here is uploaded intelligence, the idea of placing one's consciousness into the computer. Chandra is just an engineer. A brilliant engineer, but still just an engineer all the same. He believes UIs will revolutionize the industry, with humanity able to kick back and relax while these digital consciousnesses do all of the work. Unfortunately, he seems to know too much, and after the meeting, he's snatched up in a van and taken away. News of this spreads across the net, and specifically to Caspian, who realizes how strange this is. Now it turns out Caspian has an estranged relationship with his father, Carrie. Carrie sees Caspian's brilliance firsthand that night. He challenges his son to solving an algorithmic problem round the dinner table. The thing is, the disagreement and fallout between Caspian's parents, not to mention the estranged bonds between them, all appear to be staged. But why? To what end? As for Maddie, the emoji sender is back and claims to be her friend. The sender also promises to bring back her father. Maddie grows spooked and hurries out of class. Unfortunately, Samara follows and believes Maddie is responsible for hacking her phone. Thankfully, Ellen shows up and interferes, stopping Samara and promising to hurt her if she comes near Maddie. Sighing, Ellen admits there's something she's been keeping from Maddie. Episode 2 of Pantheon starts with Ellen revealing a bombshell to Maddie. Ellen knows what happened to David, and through this chapter, we're about to find out. The big tech company at play here is Logarithms, and they've come a long way since their CEO, Stephen Holstrom, passed. His words and soul live on through the work they do, with David and Ellen part of this project. All is well until David ends up sick. With the UI project hanging by a thread, David volunteers for a dangerous and unpredictable project. Essentially, this is a suicidal procedure where the brain is digitally captured while the neural connections are still firing. In other words, they need to scan a living brain. Unfortunately, the tissue matter would be peeled away layer by a laser that records everything down to the molecular level. Ellen is not happy about David signing up for this despite him having 4 weeks left to live. If it works, David perceives that they'll have all the time they want together. The thing is, it'll never actually be him, just his digital imprint. Back then, Maddie suspected something was up, but Ellen kept it secret from her daughter, given it wasn't guaranteed that the procedure would even work. And unfortunately, the experiment failed and David was lost. At least that's what she was told. Now that we're in the present, Ellen believes that Peter and Logarithms have lied and parts of David's brain matter survived. Ellen sees this emoji chat hack as some sort of trick, especially as David hasn't reached out for years. Ellen has outright rejected the idea of her husband returning, having taken a long time to process his death. Ellen shatters the thin shreds of hope Maddie had been clinging to and promises to make those responsible pay. Caspian and Maddie continue to connect through their computers, with the former revealing that there was a big DDoS attack at Logarithms. It took them down for 20 seconds, and it's big news all over the forums. While talking, though, Maddie mentions uploaded intelligence. She's immediately stopped by another chat message coming up with someone called Angry Angel. They implore her not to talk to Caspian anymore and to meet at the Lone Pine Mall food court at 3 p.m. Only I can help you now. They ominously sign off with Caspian's contacts, and going off book by discussing UIs reaches logarithms, and they contemplate how to handle this going forward. For now, it's decided that they continue as planned, with Caspian's parents keeping up appearances. Over at Maddie's house, while Maddie is out at the mall meeting her mysterious contact, Pierre heads over and reveals more of the truth to Ellen. It turns out logarithms partition off the part of David's brain that contained his skill. A while back, those at the company realized the algorithm wasn't working as efficiently as they had hoped. It turns out problem-solving isn't just logic and reason, it's also dependent on emotion. After adding more of David's emotions into the UI, it opened the floodgates of unpredictability, specifically in him trying to contact Maddie. Ellen demands that all of this uploaded consciousness be deleted, otherwise she's going to the press. The trouble is, David is exceeding his programming and even sending messages to those inside logarithms, reading, "I want my freedom. I want my family," repeated constantly. Over at the mall, Maddie meets her contact, Cody. It turns out his wife, Lori Lowell, contacted her despite being dead for 4 years. Cody admits that she's not dead, and neither is her father. Much like David's experiment, Lori also underwent the same thing when she fell into a coma. Logarithms did the procedure, but it was a bait and switch. They told Cody it was unsuccessful, but in reality, they used her consciousness to play the stocks, given she was a promising hedge fund broker in charge of her own trading team before being comatose. This DDoS attack was actually crafted by Lori, who tried to break her father out of their digital prison. The thing is, Ellen wanting logarithms to delete everything off the server would completely destroy the consciousness of her father, who appears to be very much functional. She's given a bracelet by Cody, which should help her in the next part of this mission. Maddie decides to tag along with Ellen, determined to fulfill her mission over at logarithms. Ellen meets with Pope, the man in charge. He refuses to delete anything to do with David Kim. P is not happy, but as they all argue, Maddie uses the bracelet to hack into the system. Everything goes down completely. As a result, logarithms are losing millions of dollars by the second, so Maddie makes a deal. They give everything back when they release David Kim to her. Pete believes he can get in, but only within 6 minutes. With time of the essence and the company bleeding money, Pope hands over David Kim and concedes. With 2 UIs now out on the open internet, it certainly looks set to cause chaos. As the episode closes out, David Kim is free over the open internet and rings Maddie, asking if she's ready to complete their adventure. Reign of Winter. Episode 3 of Pantheon starts with Chanda stuck in an infinite loop of work. He doesn't remember any of this, of course, and he also receives a call from his mother too, which incentivizes him to work harder. He manages to write 80 pages in 12 seconds, but in reality it's been 12 days for him. That shitty businessman we saw before is actually the head of India's largest telecom empire, and his name is Ajit. He's clearly stolen this tech and smiles evilly as he sees his plan come together. However, midway through his workday, a strange entity continues slips through the walls and haunts Chanda. However, this apparition seems to be more of the Casper variety, acting like a friendly ghost. It grabs Chanda and turns him toward the monitor, where footage of Chanda's brain surgery is shown off in all its gnarly glory. These spirits happen to be those poor souls from the slums who had similar experiments done to them. Meanwhile, Maddie and David end up playing Reign of Winter together. The game has come a long way and now has full VR integration. Although Maddie has embraced the idea of her father returning, Ellen is far less accepting of David, and she's not even sure if he really exists. David ends up causing a strange shockwave inside the game, destroying another party of gamers. This also gets across to logarithms too, but as they can't track the source right now, the program isn't finished. Apparently, they decide to send it across to the lab for analysis. Maddie decides to parent trap David and Ellen, wanting them to talk through their problems. And that, of course, does not work. When Maddie tries to set up a dinner date for the pair, Ellen rejects the idea. It doesn't help that she's involved with Gabe. While visiting him that night, a jealous David starts messing about with the electrics to ruin their date. Ellen finally embraces the idea of talking to David, and she does so by connecting with him in VR. She tells him to let her move on and not interfere with her new life. David admits that he loves her and Maddie, and this love is what he is. It's also the reason he's still moving. I can't be your wife, but we can keep talking. And maybe we can both keep moving. Ellen concedes. It's a really mature and smart way to round out these two characters, and of course Maddie is upset that they're not getting back together after all. Caspian continues to look into uploaded intelligence UI, believing that Hallstrom and logarithms have been at this since 2001. His mom Renee tries to dissuade him away, but she's clearly rattled. Now it turns out Renee and Hallstrom were actually sexually involved with one another in the past. Caspian is incredibly smart, as we know, and he writes a script to search for redacted locations on Google Earth, including cache images. Cross-referencing this with Logarithm's donations to Ocean Fund, it leads him on the right path. In fact, he notices images of the construction of their base. Despite the engineers changing the pictures on Caspian's computer, it's not enough to dissuade him. However, the big moment that Carrie and Renee have been planning for takes place. Carrie buys a hammer and prepares to smash it into Renee's arm, but he can't do it. Instead, she does it herself, and when Caspian shows, he beats Carrie up to a pulp. Carrie leaves the house and drives up the road, heading for the debrief. The inflection point is on schedule, but it's clear that it's affecting him, as Carrie admits to his boss, Pope, that he's going to miss the kid. While he pulls over by the side of the road and cries, Caspian takes a chance with Hannah and kisses her in the parking lot. As for Ajit, he takes to the stage at a conference to discuss his work, with Pope rejecting an offer to join together. The final scene cuts us back to Chanda one more time as he's shown himself going about his work day stuck in this digital hell. But with a newfound knowledge of what's happening, what does this mean for the future?